to the Healing Trauma Through Conscious Embodiment Summit, revealing your body's wisdom and utilizing creativity in healing. My name is Greg Westwood, and I'm your host. My work depth integration integrates meditation, breath work, inquiry, journey work, and movement as conscious embodiment tools for healing. The purpose of this summit is to support participants who are looking for that deeper and longer lasting healing that conscious embodiment tools support. My intention is to educate, motivate, and inspire each of us into taking inspired steps in our healing journeys and to remember who we truly are. I'm so honored to introduce my next guest, Michael Stone. Michael attended his first breathwork session in 2005 and was blown away by the power of the breath. It was such a life-changing experience for him that he changed his career direction and decided to focus his life around breathwork in support of world healing. Michael has a unique way of combining his science background with his breathwork training and experience that allows him to create a safe space for participants to open their hearts and have transformative, life-changing experiences. In 2018, he birthed Neurodynamic Breathwork Online, which has now been experienced by over 30,000 people from about 120 countries. In order to achieve his vision of allowing anybody in the world that wants to experience the benefits of expanded states of awareness to be able to do so from the comfort of their own home. Michael, it's such a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the summit, Greg.
So your topic today is neurodynamic breathwork, a gateway to conscious embodiment, emotional health, and personal empowerment. So how did you create neurodynamic breathwork, and how does it work?
It all started with a trip to Peru, actually, where I ended up going down there with a woman that I wanted to get to know better, and we ended up doing an ayahuasca journey. And at that time, I had no idea what ayahuasca was. We were just out in the middle of nowhere, and there was this shaman with us, and he says, "Do you want to try a religious ceremony that we do down here?" And I'm going, "What's that?" You know, I'm from sciences, I'm chemical engineering. I don't say just yes to those kind of things. So he said, "It's very simple. I go out in the rainforest and get this vine and this leaf. I put it all together and boil it all up and you drink it." So my original reaction is, forget about that. We're in the middle of nowhere. It's like 4-hour canoe ride from anywhere. I'm not drinking some stuff from the rainforest. But this woman I was with going, "Yeah, let's try this. Let's do it. Let's do it." So I kind of gave into social pressure and I said, okay, if I'm going to die, at least it's in the rainforest. I'm in a beautiful space. Let's give it a go. So, and I had this amazing experience. It was really the first time in my life that I'd had this feeling of being safe in the world. I'd really grown up with feeling, for a variety of reasons, for some things that happened in my background, that the world was an unsafe place, which impacted my entire life. It impacted the quality of my relationships, obviously. If you feel that the world's an unsafe place, you're never going to be able to totally open up in a relationship. And so it was a major breakthrough for me just to have that feeling, even if it was only for a few hours. So when I came back, my science mind is going, okay, if I can have that kind of experience with the substance, the receptors are there in my brain, there's got to be other ways of activating those receptors. So I started to look around, and ultimately I landed on holotropic breathwork, which I was kind of felt connected to because it was developed by a psychiatrist who did it really with more of a science-based breathwork. And by working through, he did it with his research through LSD psychotherapy and the experiences that people had had, and then trying to kind of recreate that style of experience, that healing experience, through just using the breath. After looking at historical societies and how they had access these expanded states. So I tried a holotropic breathwork session and had also another amazing breakthrough experience. And so at a certain point, I decided, okay, this is something that I want to really dedicate myself to so I can allow other people to have these same kinds of experiences. So I went through their 3-year training program in holotropic breathwork, and I became a holotropic breathwork facilitator. And I was doing that for a decade. And my only frustration with it, it's a really amazing modality, but it has to be done in person. They're like 12-hour all day long sessions. And you have to have this huge venue where people are laying out in mats. It's a huge project to put one on. And I just didn't feel like I could impact enough people to really create the goal that I wanted to create, which was basically to have enough people experience breathwork to really create a change in world consciousness. It's just like Einstein said, we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. And so I said, okay, this is my way of kind of giving to the world in terms of allowing people to really shift the way that they think about things, to shift about, to shift their consciousness. So I said, okay, the only way I'm going to really make this happen the way I want to is to figure out a way to do this online. Because in holotropic breathwork, they don't let you do it online. It's only an in-person modality. So I spent the next 6 months of my life testing with people to see what would work online, how long breathing sessions, how long a session do you really need? And then ultimately, I brought it online, and that was about 4 years ago. And, as you said in my introductory bio, now we have 30,000 people that have experienced it from over 120 different countries. People are mostly just telling their friends about it because they're having these amazing experiences. And it's just been remarkable to be able to share breathwork with people like that. And in addition, since it is online, I can do it very inexpensively. So, I can make it so that people can really, if they want to do it, I make it so they can do it, basically. So I give them their first session for free. Then if they like it, I'll give them a whole month for free. We do 20 live sessions. And then if they want to continue from that, we make it very inexpensive for them to continue.
What are some of the benefits that your participants report?
So when we do our surveys with people who breathe regularly, what they report is some of the major benefits are greater access to what they call their inner wisdom, this kind of peace in their psyche where they already feel like they already have the answers. So they don't need to go into the outside world to find out what's my purpose in life. What do I need to do now? Increased connection to intuition, greater self-awareness, increased ability to relax, more calm and peace, better connection to what they call source. Some people see it differently, but they were calling it source. Increased trust in self, which is incredibly important in trauma, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. More clarity on their purpose in life, which is also a huge, huge deal. Relief from anxiety and grief. Those are the major benefits that they get. And the types of experiences that they have in this breath work are, for example, some people get psychedelic experiences where they get visuals, where they see themselves either, let's say, going to a past life where they get some healing around what happened, or doing ancestral healing, or feeling like they go back to a childhood experience where they see it from a different perspective and see it in a more self-empowering way and not something that holds them back. Sometimes people feel like they go through kind of this rebirthing experience, which is one of the major traumas of our life. People many times get really good body releases from suppressed emotions, where they allow themselves to really feel the emotion and let it out instead of holding it back in their body, where it causes all kinds of problems. Some people get a lot of kind of these insights just into issues that they've had in their lives, where they were stuck for years or decades, and all of a sudden they get these insights about how they can move through things. So all of those things are possible during the breathwork sessions, and usually it's a combination of those types of experiences.
So how can your work help with trauma?
One of the major impacts of trauma, or what I call the unfortunate side effects. Well, actually, let's start with this. First, I want to create a distinction between trauma and a traumatic event, because everybody has traumatic events in their life. Like their relatives die. Like, for instance, my father, when I was 25, died in a plane crash. Everybody has those things that happen. It's more a function of, do we have the ability to work through it and to deal with it in that moment? And if we do, then it doesn't become a trauma. If we don't, if we're overwhelmed by it, then it actually becomes a trauma and starts to create issues and problems in our lives. And many of our traumas happened in childhood when we had very, very little resources to work with strong emotional things or things that were happening at that point. Our adult mind hadn't fully developed yet. And a couple of the unfortunate side effects from trauma is, first of all, the majority of people who have trauma lose trust in themselves because something happened where they couldn't handle it. So in their mind now, when things happen, there's always this unconscious thinking pattern. Am I going to really be able to deal with this? Because I couldn't deal with that back then, and look at all the problems it's caused. So they lose trust in themselves. And second of all, many times they dissociate from their body. They don't trust their body anymore because there was a strong emotion that they couldn't handle. So they have a bit of a fear factor of really allowing things to process through their body. So they have a very, very difficult time connecting to their body, connecting to their emotions. And those are two of the main things that really need to be healed in order to work through trauma and to get beyond it. I don't think ever seen a case where people who have deep trauma can work with it and work through it and completely get beyond it just from an intellectual level, where they're getting an understanding of where it came from. And so they can work through it that way because it's deeply stuck in their body. And so they have to go back into their body to release it and to work through it. And that's where breath work comes in. In breath work, basically what's happening is, in the same way that your body, if you get sick or if you have a cut, your body knows exactly what to do. You have this innate body wisdom that knows exactly how to heal yourself and bring you back to full health. And in the same way, your psyche also has the capability. It's just that because of all the things that we do, the ego mind, all these thoughts, these negative thoughts that we're throwing all these chemicals into our body, we just have a very difficult time connecting to this amazing inner guidance, inner healing power that we all have. And in breath work, what happens is, through breath and music, first through deeper breathing, we quiet the ego mind and can connect to this amazing inner guidance that we all have. And one of the things that happens is that we start to, as I said before, many times we get insights, but many times we connect to our body and start to release these suppressed emotions that we have, that we felt unsafe to release and have been stuck in our body for years or decades. And they start to come out and we start to feel them. So people who have had trauma, all of a sudden, little by little, they start to feel more during their breathwork sessions and start to really understand that, I had this trauma when I was a child, mostly, and I didn't have a lot of resources then. I do have more resources now, and my body doesn't have to be the enemy. It's really not the enemy. It's really my friend. And so, this doesn't happen in like one session. This is more like this inner guiding intelligence that I'm talking about. It will only bring you things that you can handle, that you can work through. So it's just a little step-by-step thing where you start to feel a little more, and start to develop more confidence in yourself that you can actually handle these feelings when they come up and start to connect and reassociate with your body. And so that's really like one of the first steps in trauma is reconnecting with your body. And also, like, when you're getting these other experiences where you're starting to get insights and seeing, answers to problems and all these other things that happen, then you start to see that you do have all the resources within you to deal with things that come up in life. So you start to slowly gain more trust in yourself and regain that trust that was lost as a result of the trauma. And when you kind of interweave those two things together, starting to reconnect with your body and regain trust in yourself, it's a huge step that starts to go forward in working through the trauma and releasing it so you can actually move beyond it.
Can you give it an example of maybe a breakthrough that one of your participants has experienced with trauma?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just one more thing I forgot to mention is that one of the things that can happen is you can go back and actually re-see the incident that causes the trauma, but see it from a more adult perspective, see it from a different way, see it in a way that actually is more empowering for you, as one of your childhood experiences. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the example I'm going to give. So there was a man who had been doing breath work for a bit of time already. But one of his issues was that he felt a bit like dissociated from his body. And in one of his sessions, he actually went back, visually to a childhood experience where it was a situation of abuse from a family member that at one point he actually felt like he was close to almost dying, basically. And it was something that after it had happened, it really created this situation where it held him back in his life. First of all, he didn't even want to talk about it because he just felt ashamed that had happened to him. And the second thing is, as we talked about before, he really lost confidence in his ability to deal with stuff that came up in life. And he felt like the world was an unsafe place, because, if someone who I really trust and, can do this to me, who can I trust? So he was in a place of distrust of life. But what he saw in this breathwork session was, he went back to the moment that this was happening. And what he saw was that in that moment, even though he knew that what was happening was wrong, he felt this feeling of divine safety. He in that moment, he felt like that no matter what happened, it was all going to be okay. That he was ultimately just protected by the universe on some level. And it was just something he was going through in that moment. It wasn't the right thing to happen, but he'd be okay on the other end. And once he saw that, that completely shifted his whole kind of memory and experience of what happened, in that instead of it being something that was devastating, that showed that life was unsafe, it really brought him to a place where he saw that life was safe and he was actually protected, and that he could actually now use that and start to take the first steps towards healing the trauma and, having this experience of moving through it and not having it hold him back in his life. It was a huge breakthrough for him. And, it didn't happen overnight. It was just the insight that started the process that he then went through to actually move through it and move forward. And the other part of that is that I wanted to mention is, after you have these experiences, integration of the experiences is incredibly important. Many times we have these experiences that in the moment we feel are life-changing. Like, let's say we go to this weekend seminar, we're all pumped up. Oh my God, this is great. I'm going to change everything in my life. And then like the next day you come back and you're back into your stuff. And within a few days, it's all gone. So it's important once you have these experiences to do something to actually keep it real for you, to embody it, and to bring it forward in your life. And so we also have resources that we open up to people for that integration. For instance, there's something called EFT, which is a tapping technique, emotional freedom techniques, which is really good at integration in terms of integrating the emotions and continuing the process. And we offer that free to everybody who works with us. We have other types of integration like that we support people with, like journaling, or just like basically just drawing whatever wants to come out and using that as part of your healing process to start to connect more with your inner guidance, and then continuing your journey. So we have a variety of integration tools that we support people with, and we also strongly support them in developing their own circle of people, their circle of friends in their life that can support them in moving forward with this, where they can connect with and feel safe with connecting. We also have a community structure that we have for people that are regular breathers with us, where people can connect with the other breathers, share their breathwork experiences, get advice from other breathers who are working through the same things, and so they can feel like they're really part of a community of support.
That's great. Integration is so important. It's part of the name of my business. So, well, thank you so much for this really great presentation. It's breathwork is so powerful, and I think you laid it out in a way that people can understand the benefits and the true joy in expansion. So we're going to have a link to your website so people can learn more about your work. So how can people try out one of your sessions?
So basically, they just have to go to the website, which is breathworkonline.com, and there'll be a little tab that says try a free breathwork session, and they can just try out a session for free. And the sessions, they're on Zoom, They're around 2 hours long. They're in groups. So they'll be connecting with breathers from around the world, anywhere from usually about 50 to a couple hundred people. And they'll get a chance to, we do an introductory talk to make sure everybody has all the information they need to really feel safe and to know exactly what can come up during the breath work. There's an hour breathing session. And then there is a sharing circle afterwards, so people can kind of open up and share and connect with the other breathers. And after their first session, they'll get an email showing them how, if they want to continue, they can do a whole month worth of breath work for free. And one of the interesting things about people connecting with their bodies, and this is just a side note, but for me, it was very powerful. Many people spend their entire lives looking for unconditional love. They're just looking for, I just want to be loved unconditionally. That's a huge deal. And it's interesting that really, when you look at it, when we're thinking about our bodies, we don't take very good care of our bodies, most of us, in one way or another. We overeat sometimes. We're feeling stressed out and throwing all these like chemicals like cortisol into our bodies, or we're drinking alcohol, or we're taking supplements, whatever it is. It's like we don't really treat our bodies the way that we could if we really wanted to optimize their ability to really, have them work with us as best they can. But our bodies never complain. All the trillions of cells, no matter what we do, they always keep working to bring us back to health and wholeness. They don't blame us for doing this or that. It's really, to me, the one place in life where you can really find unconditional love. Because if that is an unconditional love, I don't know what is. So they're always there for us, no matter what.
That's beautifully said. Yeah. And you're also generously giving a gift to people who sign up for your mailing list. What was that? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So the gift is, first of all, obviously they get the free session, and then after that they'll get the whole month for free. But also they can, if they do, sign up for the whole month, then they will also get free access to our whole community structure, which is, we have 3 or 4 things every week that they can participate in, where they can, share their breathwork experiences, connect with other breathers. Also, for instance, right now we're doing a course on self-compassion to give them all the tools they need to be more compassionate to themselves, which is a great integration technique. And so we offer all of these tools that they can use and have them feel like they're really part of a supportive online community where they can be open, they can share, that's non-judgmental, it's incredibly supportive. And feeling part of a community in life is one of the most healing things that can possibly happen. If you look at polyvagal theory, that's just one example, PVT, where they say in order to really heal, you have to be in a place where that's kind of social, of community, and also where you feel safe. And that's exactly the structure that we, create for people so they can maximize the healing as they go through this breathwork journey.
That's really wonderful what you've created to support people. I know they all benefit greatly by that. So thank you again for taking the time to share your wisdom and your free services, which is so generous of you. And I can't thank you enough for being here.
And thank you again for having me on, Greg. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Thank you. Well, thank you for watching, and please tune in to all of the other wonderful presenters here at the Healing Trauma Through Conscious Embodiment Summit. Take care.